We have another set of poll results to report about race relations in America, and I'm going to take that opportunity to address our other poll first. The one that sparked controversy by indirectly leading to the mass cancellation of Dilbert, and covered by pretty much every media organization in the world. I'm not here to talk about Scott Adams, however. I'm here to address the haters, AstroTurf, trolls, anti-polling troglodytes, but also reasonable people with real questions who don't understand why our survey is incredibly meaningful and brought to light new, important information in the discussion about race in America. So here are some points in no particular order. Number 1, were you aware that the phrase, "it's okay to be white," originated on 4chan and has a history of being used by white supremacists? Yes. Seriously though, I'm well aware of the history of the phrase, "it's okay to be white," because I lived through it. There are only 5 years of history. Wherever it originated, and whoever currently uses it, it got attention for being a widespread troll campaign on college campuses in 2018, and it was covered by pretty much the same news organizations that are covering this now. Now, to me, this comment is really a deflection from the results of our poll. Remember that 72% of American adults agree with this statement. That, as people point out, is currently defined as hate speech by the Anti-Defamation League. And only 12% of Americans disagree. 53% of black Americans agree, 42% strongly, and only 26% of them disagree. Comment number 2, that we're race baiting. I think this one is probably deflection again. We're a media organization that gets a large part of our revenue from advertising and subscriptions, like every other organization reporting on this. But once again, they're all covering the Scott Adams controversy, not the important meat of our poll and the questions it raises. But I bet you didn't know this. Rasmussen Reports has been in business since 2003, and we poll daily for 20 years. We're probably the polling organization that has polled most on racial issues in America. Why? Because it's an important issue, and because it's getting worse. Yes, worse. I encourage you to get a subscription to our site and look at all the articles. What you'll find is that Americans rate race relations about 10 points worse than they did during Obama's first term, and about the same as they did at the start of Trump's term. Number 3, we're a pro-Trump pollster. This is definitely deflection. We have a 20-year track record of top-tier accuracy, and we predicted both a Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden popular vote win. But people who don't want to address the content of our polling call us pro-Trump because back in 2016, we were one of the few who didn't have Hillary Clinton up by double digits. Number 4, you only polled 130 black respondents, so how can they possibly speak for all of black America? Well, hold that thought. This sample was actually 1,182 respondents. We usually just round down to 1,000 for simplicity when processing. And there were exactly 117 black respondents who were then weighted to 13% of the poll. This is standard polling process. How can 117 black respondents accurately represent the thoughts of an entire country? Because it's a statistically relevant sample. For those who say it isn't, have you ever tried flipping a coin 117 times in a row? 53% of black Americans agreed that it was okay to be white. So if we ran this poll again, we would expect something between 44 and 62%. But those who are making this statement, what is your point? Why are you saying it? Is it because you think black Americans should or shouldn't agree that it's okay to be white? Because I can personally tell you that the odds of either are essentially 0. But now number 5, which to me is by far the most important one. It's only 1,000 people. People who say this probably either don't understand polling, or more likely, they're preying on the fact that you might not understand polling. So I'm going to help you out. But first, let me say this. Rasmussen Reports has extremely high standards for accuracy. We refuse to even conduct a national poll of less than 750 people, and 99% of our polling is 1,000 plus. But if you dig into polls featured by many mainstream news organizations, big-name pollsters, or even prominent polling groups in academia, you will routinely see national polls of 600, 500, and even 400 people. But trust me, you're probably going to have to dig for it. The fact is, most polls are around 1,000 respondents. But why? Because a poll is a sample, and above 1,000, there are very diminishing returns for accuracy. Money spent above 1,000 is probably better spent on another poll. And here we are. You don't like that we polled on this? You don't believe the results? Fine. Go to another pollster and have them prove us wrong. We've disclosed our weightings, the exact question wording, and our methodology, so anyone can replicate it. You could even replicate it with SurveyMonkey. You don't believe us? You don't like the results? Fine. Prove us wrong. We'll be waiting. So I'm going to have to rush the rest of this to keep the video short enough for Twitter, but here's what I'm covering today. Does the way racial issues are treated by schools and universities help to decrease racism or make racism worse? 21% of American adults say it decreases racism, but 46%, over 2 times more, say it makes racism worse. If you were to combine decrease racism and not much impact, increase racism still has a plurality. Men think it decreases racism a little more than women, and 18 to 39-year-olds about 10 points more than others. But here's race. White Americans are more likely than others to both think it decreases racism and increases racism. That's a hint that it's a party thing. Democrats, by a 38% to 24% margin, think it decreases racism. That 38% number seems surprisingly low to me. I'd love to hear your comments. But only 8% of Republicans think schools and universities are decreasing racism, but 69% say they're increasing it. Independents are, as usual, in between, but much closer to Republicans. Are race relations in America today getting better or worse? 14% say better and 41% say worse. 40% say about the same. That seems really bleak to me, given how much of our national discourse is focused on race. There really isn't much of a race signal, but here's party. Believe it or not, there's not much of a signal here either, with Democrats slightly more likely to say better and slightly less likely to say worse. But how would you rate race relations in America today? And these numbers are bad. 22% say excellent or good, but thankfully only 33% say poor. But again, here's party, and there is almost complete agreement. Now, remember how I talked about our history of polling on race issues? Well, here are some past ratings I pulled for this video. As you can see, race relations were at their best, though still horrible, about 2 years into Obama's presidency. 33% rated race relations excellent or good, and only 15% said poor. By his last year in office, only 18% said excellent or good, and 33% said poor. Those are the worst readings in our polling history. Halfway through Trump's term, excellent or good picked up a little to 25%, but poor remained at 33%, where it is today. 2 years into Biden's presidency, and only 22% say race relations are excellent or good, the second worst behind the end of Obama's presidency. And that's a trend that America noticed, because in September of 2015, 47% of likely voters said that since Obama was elected as the first black president, people of different races were driven further apart, and only 20% said they were brought together. Let me wrap this up quick. We ask Americans reasonable and relevant questions, and they happily answer us. I had no problems getting responses to these questions. If you find yourself gravitating towards one of the comments I mentioned earlier, take a pause and try to refocus your energy on the results of our polling. Please follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube or Rumble, and consider supporting our work by becoming a paid subscriber to RasmussenReports.com so you can get your hands on all of that racial polling history. Thanks for watching.